6 is the time. I mentioned earlier that we're going to talk about a program that's got to do with disability, and it's called Ghana Somuni Dwumadie. I hope I got that right.
Yes.
Yes, Somuni Dwumadie. What that is all about, I guess, to join us for us to talk about that one. So I have next to me Humphrey Kofi. Humphrey is Executive Secretary, Mental Health Society Ghana. Next to Humphrey is Dwumadie. Dwumadie is a legal advisor at the Commission for Human Rights, that's right, and Administrative Justice. Then next to Dwumadie is James Sambia. James is a former executive director of the Ghana National Association of the Deaf. Gentlemen, lady, good morning.
Good morning, George.
Hope you're all good.
Yes, we are.
All right.
You are too.
The Lord has been good to us. Let's start with you, Dwumadie. What do you do at Shraj?
Well, basically, I'm you can call me a gate woman because a gate woman for human rights.
A gate woman.
Yeah, a gate woman,
Okay.
A gate woman in terms of the fact that for the commission to sit on any case, my office is the one who receives these cases and try to apply the Commission on Human Rights. We have our own act. We try to apply our mandate. When I see that this case it is not within our mandate, then I'm sorry, but your case will not be heard by the Commission on Human Rights.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm there. I'm a gate woman.
So you're a big woman then.
Oh no.
Yeah, because everything in there is dependent on you. Yeah, but must go through you first.
Yeah.
And for how long have you been with Shraj?
Roughly by 5 days, because when I had my law internship and then formally working for Shraj, it should be roughly around 6 years.
How's the experience like?
Yeah, man.
You like it?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Okay, all right. Humphrey, how's the Mental Health Society doing?
Well, we're doing very well. Let me say good morning to your viewers. We're doing very well. I mean, many of our activities have been more of the users themselves leading the crusade and doing the advocacy, except for a few situations that I will come in to do some advocacy depending on the technicality of the issue. But we are more user-led in terms of our activities, and that is doing very well.
All right. And James, how is your association also doing?
Oh, well, I retired from the Ghana National Association of the Deaf, I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
But the association is doing well.
It's doing well.
Yes.
But I'm sure you're still within the old advocacy issue.
I'm still within the disability movement.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'm working for the disability movement.
Okay, so let's start off. What is Somuni Dwumadie? Who's going to go first to it?
Well, Somuni Dwumadie is an organization. It's a UK-funded organization.
Okay.
Which is interested in promoting issues of inclusion for persons with mental health. It is also aimed at generating evidence for policy and practice on issues related to mental health. And then it's also interested in scaling up quality services within the healthcare facilities on issues related to mental health. So it's an organization that it also provides funding for disability-led organizations so that issues related to mental health would be appropriately dealt with.
So it's mainly concerning mental health?
Yes, and persons with disability, but the focus is on mental health.
The focus is on mental health?
Yes.
So that brings Humphrey. Any reason for the focus being on mental health?
Yes, so I think that the principle behind Ghana Somuni Dwumadie mentioning disability and mental health is that most of the time mental health is lost when you talk about disability. In fact, there are people who don't even believe that mental health is a disability because you might not really see it being profound in terms of the person not being, having a visual impairment or hearing impairment or physical disability. So it becomes difficult for people to appreciate the fact that there is mental health disability. If you have not stripped naked, then you cannot be classified as such. But all of us sitting here, And if you even go by the WHO count, that 1 in every 4 people is suffering or will suffer mental health at a point in time. So if you come from here, it could land on you. If you come from here, it could be on somebody. So the issue of mental health is general. That it's good that we separate it from the other disability and have more focus in addressing issues that come up.
And for how long has this organization been out, the Ghana Somuni Dwumadie?
I think it's a 4-year. It's going to run for 4 years, and I think they just started last year.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So and how's it been? I mean, with just the 1 year.
Well, with the 1 year, they've done a lot so far. They've given sponsorship, funded some organizations to deal with issues of mental health. They've also funded some organizations to deal with research. As I said, they are also looking at generating evidence, to inform practice and policy. So, yes, research. They've supported organizations to do some research on mental health. And they've provided funding to some organizations, disability organizations, and I think they are also working with, other stakeholders, the National Council for Persons with Disability, the Ghana Federation of Organizations of Persons with Disability, and other stakeholders, so that issues related to disability, particularly mental health, will be appropriately dealt with.
Actually, let me find out from you. At least how long have you been working within this scope with the Ghana Somuni Dwumadie?
Well, almost the same time as either one of my colleagues, because first of all, the program started last year, so it's around a year and 3 months old.
Okay.
So basically, I've been a member for that long period of time, 1 year and 3 months. So yeah.
All right.
We've vetting a lot.
And what have you identified within this 1 year, 3 months that you've been working? That's the major problems we need to address.
Well,
so let's identify the problems now.
Like I said before, this program is about focusing much more on mental health disabilities, as well as all the forms of disabilities. If I may be right, then it's about 60% mental health, and then 40% physical or other forms of disability. Like myself, I have a mild intellectual disability, so of course you cannot bypass me. So, and then we do have some advocates for mental health as well in the board. So basically, Charlie, we do work.
You do work.
We do work.
Okay, you do work. I can understand that. All right. So, James, in identifying the problems, let's start first with the other forms of disability. Then I'll come to Humphrey for the mental health issue. What has been those major challenges within this country that's affecting a proper recognition and also handling of mental other disabilities?
I think that issues of disability are issues that a lot of people are not aware about. And there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of awareness, raising awareness and letting people know the peculiar challenges that persons with disability face. I will mention a few of them.
Sure.
I think the first one, without doubt, I think everybody will agree, is stigma and discrimination. There's a lot of discrimination for persons with disability. There is a job advertised and the person with disability shows up. There are a lot of problems that the person will go through. So discrimination and stigma is one of the main challenges of persons with disability. Number two, inclusion. Sometimes issues that are related to persons with are thought of as like an afterthought. And so it's like they've done the thing, then they realize that, persons with disability were not included.
Not included. Then they'll just try and find some space for them.
Exactly.
Usually the space they find for them is totally away from the real project itself.
Exactly. And then also, like the stigma I was referring to, I think that persons with disability don't like disability to be used as a metaphor. For example, and most Ghanaians do that a lot. For example, something that somebody does not say, are you blind? Are you deaf? And it's a language that a lot of people use. But that
and we joke with it.
And shouldn't be. It should not be used as a metaphor. a blind person and you are using blindness as a metaphor. I don't think it's right. And so that's what I was referring to as awareness. We need to let people be aware that even the way they talk, the way they say things, unconsciously or unconsciously, you are trying to, say a lot of things that demean the persons with disability. And then also, I think the other issue about disability, which I need to put on the table, is also issue about, recognition. Persons with disability and everybody, it needs to be recognized. I mean, for whatever they can do or whatever they have done. And persons with disability have achieved a lot, whether it is academically or, even sports. And so I think that they also need to be recognized and they need to be included. And I think that persons with disability also need to be active and visible. In your community, make sure you are visible. Let people see you, contribute, be part of what is going on.
What if they're not even given the opportunity to do
Exactly.
that?
So that opportunity is not there. And that's why stakeholders, the government, the service providers, NGOs, civil society, we all need to make it a point to include them in whatever is going on, so that they can also be part of what is going on around them.
With these challenges you've talked about, is it that we don't know or we are ignorant of some of these things, or we just decide not to care?
It's both. Some people don't know. We may assume that, this person should know, but maybe he doesn't know. And so it's partly because of lack of knowledge. And then secondly, it's partly because of stigma. If I associate with a blind person or I associate with a person with disability, I may get infected. If I deal with a person with disability, I may, in one way or the other, be classified as something. So that kind of thoughts, try to make people to alienate themselves from them. And so I think that's why I said that I think it's partly lack of awareness and partly because of the way we also, or our beliefs. Yes.
I'm within the mental health section. What challenges have we identified?
Very well. So the issue of underfunding for mental health, then the strengthening of integration of mental health into the primary healthcare system, as well as stigma, are all contributory factors. Currently in this country, we are losing about 7% of our GDP to psychological distress, as compared to malaria, which is about 4%.
7%?
Yes, 7% as compared to malaria, which is about 4%. There's also a treatment gap, which is between 85 to 98 people. What it means, therefore, is that those who require mental health services are not getting. And this is the bracket of people who require it but are not having access. Again, if you look at our 2020 budget, about 1.4% of the total health budget went into mental health. Just 1.4. This tells you that there is a lot to be done. If we don't take the steps of ensuring that we fund mental health consciously, making sure that, look, at every nook and cranny of this country, if you want mental health services, it's accessible, then you might be joking, especially in the light of the pandemic. I even read a research that had been done, that was published, that people who suffered, who became patients of COVID-19, within 6 months are suffering from neurological and other mental health related challenges, which tells you that if COVID-19 is not leaving us now, we need to strengthen our mental health system. There is so much anxiety, there is suicidal behavior, suicidal thought, there is isolation and it's leading to stigma, there is fear, people think that there's so much uncertainty and that is leading them. And in fact, those who even go through isolation, when they come back, they begin to experience some mental health challenge because they become so depressed to the extent that 2 weeks you are not able to reach out to anybody, nobody can reach out to you. They can put you in an isolation center, they come and give you food, they lock you up and you are gone. Can you imagine? It's like a prison, and
I was telling someone that usually when you're in a room, you might think that you're okay.
That's true.
But you stay in there for a while, and it begins to affect your mental health.
Exactly.
And you begin to act in the way.
Yeah,
And
very funny.
I mean, there are lots of experiences though.
That is it. So, as a country, we need to take up mental health and run with it.
Yeah.
Even in the well-developed countries, they are, because of the pandemic, they are not finding it that easy. Especially even in the United States and other. So, for us as a third world country, we need to step up our game when it comes to mental health.
All right, Audra, what experience can you share with us in terms of disability, your own experience and experience with others too?
Okay, so before I start my own experience,
Sure.
I would like to ask you what my colleagues said.
Okay.
Now, the Human Rights Watch,
Yes.
okay, because I'm a legal person, so I cannot deal with it.
Yeah.
And according to the Human Rights Watch, as far back as 2012, they found out that we have about 2.8 million people in Ghana here suffering from mental health. And we have about 650,000 people because being severe. Now the issue, why is this not being, why is the government of the day not doing what they have to do? Mental health can affect anybody here.
Yeah.
A typical example is the fact that during the lockdown, Shelley, we were in a room for almost how many years? How many months?
7, 8 months.
Can you imagine the whole psychological trauma that we all went through? We had increase in domestic violence.
Yeah.
Why? So that should tell you that it is not all those walking down the street, stripped naked, that actually have mental. I mean, I can give a typical example of mental health. We have dementia, we have autism, we have ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Yeah.
And then we have the PTSD, that is post-traumatic
Stress disorder.
Yeah, bingo. So basically, there are many forms of disability when it comes to mental. Now, my experience as a person living with disability varies. For instance, I don't mean to be rude.
Okay, no
I
problem.
don't mean to be rude to the house here. Now, when I was coming to the show this morning, for instance, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I have to do so many, walk down like different blocks before I go here. It shows that even this facility itself was not disability friendly to me. Now, the CRPD, which is the Convention on the Rights of Persons Living with Disabilities, states that in as much as I have a disability, you have to make sure that I can, effectively and fully participate in everything.
Yeah, you're right.
So my disability comes to play when society does not do what they have to do to make me participate effectively and fully. So when you think about my experience, then I'll say that what has society done that would make me feel my disability much more prominent. And a typical example is buildings. I got here and I was panting. I had to sit down for 5 minutes and see that Charlie relax. It is not easy. A typical example also is that I went to University of Ghana for my first degree and second degree also. Now, University of Ghana had these edifice, JQB. I mean, all my Lego 9 know it. JQB is nowhere near friendly. I had a friend who was actually in a wheelchair and had to be carried over, fleet of staircases to get to the top for a lecture.
And then did that for the 4 years.
Thank you. In other words, to me, as a person with a disability, you undermine my dignity. I don't want to be carried about. I don't want to be labeled a burden.
The burden, yeah.
Because of what? Because I work differently, I talk differently, or what? So my personal experience, there are many.
Yeah.
If I start right now, we're not going to end the show now. But then my major issue is the fact that the stigmatization. The stigmatization is so hard, especially in my journal, being being an intellectually disabled. I don't like the word disabled. Being an intellectually a person with intellectual disability, stigmatization. I'm called insuba. When I sit by somebody else, the person got a shit because the person thinks that it's contagious. I'm gonna give birth to baby with what a baby. My goodness, I have a daughter who does not have cerebral palsy or any kind of disability.
Oh, okay.
That goes to say that this whole thing is also partly what Mr. Samuel said, that it comes from ignorance and cultural beliefs,
religious beliefs
as well. As pertaining to mental health,
that's a major problem in this country.
Yeah.
Even in Africa. I mean, ignorance, culture belief, and religious beliefs. These things are really creating a lot of problems for us, and I agree with you.
Yeah, and like my big boss here said, mental health. We always say mental health, but then as people, we attribute mental health to evil spirit and demon. To the extent that even those suffering from AIDS can actually accept that this belief is true. That I've been possessed by a demonic spirit. To the extent that now there are 3 areas whereby we can get mental health care.
Yeah.
From the community we live in, from the 3 major psychiatric hospitals we have in Ghana, as well as where the prayer comes. Prayer comes. So this issue is it needs to be prioritized. Subsequently, I will give you some statistics.
Okay.
Okay. By the Human Rights Watch, we found out that we had about over 700 prayer camps.
700.
Over 700 prayer camps without government overseeing them. That's a big issue here.
But those are areas that governments are even scared to touch.
Can you imagine? That is, that is even down here in the south, southern Ghana, the northern Ghana. What do you think happens there? Yeah. That is why we have waste camp, so many waste camps in the northern area. Because they do not understand dementia is a mental health issue. When an old lady is getting older, of course, she's likely to suffer from dementia, which is a mental health disorder. But then they start labeling her, oh, she's a witchcraft, here and there, and then they take her to these which come.
Yeah.
So, my dear, if I stand now, we ain't gonna end today.
Okay. I mean, you've said a lot, though.
Yes.
You've said a lot. Let's move. At least now we've been able to create the base for it. Let's move our conversation to a notch higher. Let's talk about accessibility to health facilities for people with disability, including those with mental health conditions. And I'm going to start with you. How accessible are health facilities to people with mental health issues?
Yeah. So when we talk about accessibility, we're talking about, first of all, the service being available. Is it affordable? And how are people able to access it? So to the extent that we still don't have, even our regional hospitals, we haven't actually integrated mental health fully in all the 10, even at the time that it used to be 10. If my memory serves me right, it's only 6 of the regional hospitals that had psychiatric wings within the regional hospital setting. And if you are talking about integration and promotion of mental health within the general health setting, we should be looking at even at the district's facilities and then even the CHIPS compound. ensuring that there is some level of services for anybody, even in the village, who needs some mental health services. You should be able to access it and not move to the district and not move to the psychiatric hospital. In that case, we'll be integrating mental health into the general primary health care system. Apart from that, stigma is so strong within mental health as well as other disabilities, but that is also so because, look, if you get admitted even one day in Accra Psychiatric Hospital, you are done. Just one day.
You are done.
You are done.
You are done.
Yes.
What do you mean you're done?
Because you've been to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. So, Charlie, there's something fundamentally wrong there.
There's something wrong with you.
Just standing even in front of Accra Psychiatric Hospital and a friend seeing you there. Oh, you're standing right in front of Accra Psychiatric Hospital. Charlie, somebody will call somebody and find out, have you seen this person for a while? I saw you right in front of Accra Psychiatric Hospital. I mean, what is happening? So to that extent, you would appreciate the fact that stigma is so pervasive when it comes to mental health, and it's also affecting the people who have the condition. Because if we don't appreciate that, look, mental health is something we should all give attention to. Because you don't know what your trigger factors could be.
Yeah.
Maybe you could go into stress for a long time, that can lead you to depression. And so many situations happen where people lose investment, people lose their loved ones, and that takes them into it. People go through accidents, and that kind of situation that they saw people being pulled out from the vehicle, that alone send them into a mental health condition. So everyone is at risk. And therefore we should look at, just like other disabilities, you can walk from here just to the gate, and by the time you get there, maybe you could have fallen down and you could have broken your limb or something. From there, you start using crutches and you are a person with disability. So these disabilities are not far from us. I know somebody who slipped from a bathroom and since then has been in a wheelchair. So you cannot understand or appreciate it unless, and that's what happens, unless somebody has a friend or a relation who is a person with disability. If it's close to your foot, then you appreciate. But if it's not close to your foot, you see it to be very far. The issue of accessibility, as a country, I think that we haven't done so well.
Even with hospitals.
Even with the hospitals. A person with hearing impairment goes to the hospital and the health providers cannot understand what he's saying. So how do you provide the service? If you don't appreciate the person's condition, how would you diagnose the person? There was a 10-year moratorium for all buildings that had been. What has happened to it? There are more emerging buildings. Government is going to put up the 88 hospitals. But have we found out whether these hospitals are going to be accessible? To what extent is mental health integrated into the design? How many hospital beds for persons with mental health conditions are going to be made available in those 88 hospitals? Or is it like, let's start and then when we remember, we come back and see whether we can alter the design? It will be too late. So as a country, I think that we have a lot to do when it comes to mental health and disability. And the earlier we take some of these things serious, the better it is for us.
All right. James, within the disability front to accessibility.
Well, I think that, first of all, Article 29, Clause 6 of the 1992 Constitution, it says that any public facility that provides a public service must make its facilities accessible to all. So, if we look at the facilities that we have, the public facilities that we have, and Ajwa alluded to most of them, are they accessible? They are not accessible. And when we talk of accessibility, accessibility is not only to do with the built environment, like, ramps. It's not only about ramps. Because when you talk of accessibility, people just think that, it's just ramps. It means much more or more than just ramps.
It starts from the gate to the entire building itself.
The doors, if the doors are narrow, the washrooms, the rails in the hospital, even the canopy. Because if you have to move from one part of the hospital to the other and it is raining, it means that you are limited, you cannot move. So it means that the hospital structure itself is not accessible because there are certain things that have to be in place to ensure that persons with disability, and especially persons with mental health, you know, I think Ajua alluded to something about depression and then mood changes. So if you are in such a condition and then you are in the hospital and you have to move about, it means that you have to have rails so that at least the rails can keep you in good check as you move along. But are the hospitals, do they have rails? And these 88 hospitals that the government promised to build, have we even seen the designs? Because persons with disability must know whether the designs are actually fit for purpose and whether the building code and the accessibility standards. I think the accessibility standards, there's a document that was developed by the National Council of Persons with Disability, which shows how structures and buildings and facilities should be, you know, accessible. And so I think these are issues that
is it part of the building code?
Well, I don't know. Okay. I don't know whether it's part of the building code. If it is not part of the building code, then we need to ensure that the accessibility standards that were developed should be part of the building code. And then I also had a look at the Human Rights Watch that Ajua alluded to. And if you look at it, you realize that accessibility is also about, if we look at the mental, the psychiatric hospitals in Ghana, there are 3 of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they are all located in the south, Cape Coast, Accra.
Pantang.
Pantang is in Accra.
Yeah.
Pantang and then Ankafo. So basically in the south, what happens to the middle belt?
Yeah.
What happens in the northern belt? What facilities are there? So we are saying that hospitals, and especially the new hospitals that are going to be built, should be disability friendly in terms of accessibility to ensure. And also, let me please add that accessibility also has to do with the designs of services, products, and facilities. So it is not just the physical, the structure, but even the service. Is the service accessible to persons with disability, to persons with mental disability? And so I think that in building the 88 hospitals that the government is thinking of, these issues need to be considered so that in the long run it will benefit everybody. Because if there is a rail in the hospital and the doors are wide and the ramps are, you know, are fit for purpose, it's not only persons with disability who would use them.
But isn't it interesting that even we have these challenges even at the hospitals?
That's another issue, and that's what we know. And I think I need to add this, that sometimes when you go to the hospitals, you realize that, or if in some of the public facilities, you see a ramp, but the ramp is built without any standard.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at the disability standard, the accessibility standard document, and I read that if the height of the ramp is 1 meter, it must slope to 10 meters. So if the height is 1 meter like this, it must slope to 10 meters. But you see a ramp and it is 1 meter high and then it slopes for just about 2 or 3 meters. That cannot be, it's too sharp and nobody can use such a ramp. And so I think that in building these hospitals, I think the contractors and all the, I don't know whether it's the Ministry of Health or the Ghana Health Service, which has the, you know, oversight responsibility to ensure that these things are built. They need to make sure that all these things are considered, and especially the accessibility document should be a guide to help them so that they can develop the hospitals to a more acceptable standards.
With the challenge of the hospitals, is this same even at the district level?
At the district level, it's even worse, because at the district level it's worse, because I'm sure that most of the hospitals, and you see, when we are talking of hospitals, we are not only looking at government hospitals, because a hospital is a public facility, and per our constitution, any public facility that provides a service must make its facilities accessible. And so if you go to the countryside and up north or other places, you realize that most of these hospitals are not properly, you know, built. And therefore, and I think that it is important to note that once you start the project well and you do it properly, it's less expensive than when you have to go back and then construct ramps or do other things. Then you spend so much money.
Yeah.
And so it's important that we consider all these issues when we are building the new hospitals.
Right. Aja, with the health facilities that do not really make room for some of these things, I mean, within your fray as the legal document itself and all that, what can be done to ensure that they adhere to what the law says, and of course the human rights index too?
Well, okay, fine. Let me give you this stimulus that I developed. Okay, fine. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was actually done in 1948, and Ghana gained her independence on the 6th March 1957, which means that it took almost 10 whole years, almost 10 years for Ghana to actually inculcate and domesticate. One more thing that we should also know is the fact that Ghana is what we call a dualist member state. Meaning that when we sign an international, like when we sign a treaty, we come back to rectify the treaty, then we domesticate those treaties into our local law. And I think an example is the fact that the Convention on the Rights of Persons Living with Disability, which was done in 2006. After 2006, Ghana had a disability law. But then, the Convention on the Rights of Persons Living with Disability was actually open for signing on March 2007. Now, so that means that this whole thing, it makes the government the greatest offender. The greatest offender. So for this particular problem of accessibility to be solved, I hate it when things, we're trying to stop a problem. We need to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the Convention on the Rights of Persons Living with Disability was actually ratified in July 2012. Look at this. The whole time fun. It also shows that there's a lot of prominence given to matters pertaining to disability.
Yeah.
So for the hospital being non-accessible, but I'm sorry to say that if the leader of the house is, and she would say that like if you're penny, you know what happens?
I know what happens right now. I know what happens right here.
So when the leader of the country, when the government ought to be the one putting in place all these beautiful laws that we have done by Parliament. If Ghana is the most beautiful country with the most beautiful laws.
Oh yeah. With beautiful laws, we rectify almost every treaty and ensure that we sign up to any international document.
I think that Article 9 of the Convention on the Right of PWDs speaks extensively on accessibility. Accessibility, as my dear Mr. Tambin said, it's not pertaining to just physical accessibility. It also pertains to transportation.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Transportation, as well as communication. As well as IT gadgets.
True.
For instance, with my journal, my daughter was unavailable. How do you communicate with me? That means that I wouldn't be able to access information. Article 9 talks about that. And yes, Joe, we sit in this country of ours, and then we claim that we don't have any laws pertaining to disability. We are screaming foul here and there, left, right, center about the fact that accessibility is being, physical accessibility. No, sir. No, sir. Accessibility goes beyond what an edifice looks like, accommodation wise. You can call it differential treatment, but then for me to be functionally so that is the word functionally effective in my society. First of all, I'm a person before my disability. And human rights is enjoyed by virtue of you being a human being.
Yes. Yes.
So you cannot tell me in this country that we have a government, we have all the law, we have all the treaties that we have rectified. We are yet to domesticate.
You get the sense that we do not care, right? Which I will agree with you. Which I'll agree with you. But let me come to you, Humphrey. What would be the best way that new and emerging hospital designs could align with accessibility standards?
Yeah, so I think government has a supervisory body that is supposed to ensure that they comply with this. I think that we need to test some of these things in the courts.
In the courts, yeah.
And once
That's why
we have a case study that will help. Because you look at, and Naja was mentioning the access to transport. Many aged people cannot board the state transport, cannot board the metro mass. Meanwhile, as a country, we've traveled abroad, we've seen that there are buses that have steps that just unfold for persons with disability and persons without disability boarding the bus with ease. So we go and see all these things and we import buses and we don't have any. It means that we are not interested.
Bingo.
I don't really know. Again, the other thing is that as ambassadors of Ghana Somuni Dwumadie and also the Alliance for Mental Health and Development, there is a list, a priority list for the vaccination of persons within the country. If you peruse this list, you will not find the persons with disability as part of the priority list of persons who need to be vaccinated as early as possible.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They mentioned the police. Health
So
personnel.
it tells you that we have even lost track from day one that this critical mass of people have not been captured as people who need that service. People with underlying health conditions, mental health conditions, and autoimmune conditions, they are not supposed to be part of the priority list. Is that what you're saying as a country? I mean, come on. We've taken delivery of about 600,000 vaccines. Then 50,000, then 300,000 more is been. All these things. We want to see that the list is reviewed to include this critical mass of people who equally have underlying either mental health or other related conditions. And for the fact that they are even persons with disability should tell us that they are more vulnerable than the list that we saw. But that is always an afterthought. So, but it's not late. I want and as ambassadors want to see that some of these things are reviewed as quickly as possible to address the issues.
Does the country have any legal obligation to do these things we are calling on them to do? Does Ghana have any legal obligation to do that?
Like I said, we have signed too many treaties.
Yes.
Number one, the CRPD. Okay? Now, let me tell you something about international laws. Now, on international law, when you sign a treaty, okay, you have three obligations. Three obligations, basic obligations you need to do. Is to protect, fulfill, and respect. And to make sure that the duties specified under the treaty is being fulfilled to the fullest, in fact, to the minute detail. So my dear, what law again do you want? What are you waiting for?
It's about time we test some of these things in our courts.
You know something funny about
Tell
my people. I mean, you know my people.
Who are the people? Who are the people? Tell me.
the judicial
Okay.
bodies.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that Ghana had all the requirements, all the law. For instance, when you call me a delegate to name like Nsuba, I can sue you in court for that
Yes.
and get as low as 600 cedis.
600 Ghana cedis.
Yeah, 600 Ghana cedis. So don't try. So basically, you know, we have all these beautiful laws pertaining to, you know, making accessible buildings, inclusive education policy. Listen, the treaty to be signed, I don't know. It goes to parliament, okay? Look, okay, but let me ask you a simple question. It's actually a rhetoric. When did the mental health bill come? The mental health act come into being? Look at the whole time frame. I mean, serious issues go disrespect towards persons with disability or mental health.
9 years ago.
Because it shows that for me, I'm not important in a way. For you to try it in court, the disability act that we have now that we are trying to amend, it is not in line with the convention on the right of persons living with disability. It is nowhere near it. Because it came into existence before the disability act of 71 back. So how then do we take it to court? Say, I tried to board a bus and somebody tries to be rude to me, or I can't
Have access in there. Yeah.
another example is actually we are all Ghanaians. No Ghanaian can tell me nothing. Yeah, not tried to before. How accessible is truthful to me? Charlie, do you know how many times I fought in church?
You fought in church. You. What happened?
You know Ghanaian culture.
Yeah.
Like I said, they will always tell you that, oh, I'm sure, but so that means that what? If I sit beside there, I'm going to
So you
get...
end up fighting with some of the passengers.
Charlie, serious.
Okay, you are.
I'm not being rude.
Yeah, I get that. I mean,
I'm not being rude. I'm just accepting what belongs to me.
Belongs
It
to
is
you.
my right. If the government of the day does not do what they ought to do, then I'm sorry, the other arm of government will not do what they ought to do.
all right. Let me move to James here. Maybe people don't really understand when it comes to the issue of accessibility into buildings and all that, especially hospitals too. If you can help us understand what benefits or why should we actually put that as part of the plan in ensuring that people with or persons with disability and other mental health issues too can have that accessibility we're talking about.
Okay, the benefit of making the hospitals accessible for everybody, including persons with disability and also persons with mental disability, the benefits are like this. Number one, if the facility has a canopy, the hospital has a canopy from one part of the hospital to the other part of the hospital, and it is raining, is it only persons with disability who will benefit?
No.
We will all benefit because we will all walk through the canopy and the rain will not get us.
Yeah.
Two, if there are rails in the hospital from one part of the hospital to the other and we are moving, is it only persons with disability who will benefit?
No.
We will all
All
benefit
benefit, yeah.
because at one time or the other we may need the rail. Because if you are suffering from malaria and you are dizzy, you have to hold on
Need
to a
something
rail.
support, yeah.
So all of us will benefit. That's number two. Number three, if the ramps are smooth and fit for purpose, stairs, a lot of people don't like climbing stairs.
I don't.
And so if there are ramps, people use the ramps, the elderly, for example, they like to use the ramps more. And so it's not only persons with disability who will benefit, it's for everybody else who will benefit. And then I think when we were talking about accessibility, we said that it is not only limited to the built environment, it also has to do with the services. So if the services are friendly, affordable, you know, the hospital needs an environment that is orderly. And if it is orderly, everybody benefits, because then the order makes the hospital environment conducive for healthcare to, you know, to thrive. And so I think that the benefits is not only limited to persons with disabilities, it's limited to everybody else. And I also like to say that I think when Adjoa was talking, she was talking about the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. The convention came into being in December of 2016. And then our Disability Act came into being in July 2016. 206, sorry. 206. It means that our act came before the convention. And so our act is limited because the convention is very comprehensive. That is why it is important that we re-look at our act.
So all this while we're not even considering
All this while, from 2006 up till now, we've been struggling to ensure that the act is in tune with the convention, and it's not working. How many years now? From 2016 and 206. That's a lot of time. And so, in a way, well,
but have you done enough advocacy, enough lobbying to ensure that this change is done, so that at least the act gets in tune with the convention?
We are using your platform now to make that case, that it's high time that we look at these issues and then to ensure that things are done in a proper way. This is one way in which we can advocate to duty bearers and government officials, because this is a huge platform that GTV has given. And so we want to reach out to stakeholders, the government and duty bearers, that look, please, when we come to you and looking for amendment of our act, please listen to us and help us so that we can all make things good for everybody.
Okay, yes, Adra.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Mr. Tambien said.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, God has been so good. Let me make this hand in the court because God has been so good. Okay? Now, the Disability Act is being amended. But let me use she. As to say, a body parliament in the for parliament to even pass it, it's going to be a huge issue. Even though we know so well that we are limited with our current disability, we are so limited. You were
Oh yeah, I mean there are lots of things that you don't care about.
So yeah, I just wanted to add it
to add it to what James said. What can we do differently? Because I mean we have a disability act, we have the mental health authority, that is so legal documents and all that, but we're still having challenges. We even have a ministry of gender, children, social protection. We have certain agencies, but there's still a problem. What can be done differently to ensure that, I mean, we can resolve some of these issues once and for all? You go to developed countries, of which you've talked about, some of these things are no problem at all. It's accessibility is just there. Even hospitals.
Even parking lots.
Even parking lots.
Prioritize.
Yes.
Disability.
There are public transports and all that. Well, I hear people say we'll get there. Charlie, we're 64 years old. When? I mean, we're 64 years old. When? What can be done differently?
Well, so the duty bearers and the ministries, agencies and departments have a bigger role, including Parliament. They need to take interest in some of these things. I keep on saying that today they are working, they are strong, they are able to move about. But tomorrow, if you're able to set the standards now, you benefit in the future.
Yeah,
it might not be yourself, it could be your mother, your sister. Let's take interest in ensuring that some of these things are in place. It's an opportunity God has given all of them to be in parliament, to be ministers here, to be president, yes, but for you to bring a change into the disability arena and as well as mental health. You never know when you need that service. You never know that it will be closer to you than you think. So they need to pay attention to some of these things and not sweep them under the carpet. The 88 hospitals we are talking about, I wish the Minister of Health, Honorable Ajimamini, takes keen interest in ensuring that the designs are fit for purpose for persons with disability and mental health disability. I think that in future, if we see these buildings come up and they don't have what it takes, we will remember him for the fact that he was in power and he had the power to bring the necessary change and he couldn't. But I believe that he will. Looking at how passionate he is with his work, I want to believe that, and also Parliament, some of these, I mean the Disability Act that has been amended, I believe that Parliament should take keen interest in ensuring that they also ask, where is the Disability Act at the moment? Is it with the ministry? Is it with the Attorney General? They should also take keen interest in finding out where the thing is, because when you ask this question on the floor of Parliament, the minister will have to come and answer. And that is how come the thing will be brought on board for them to discuss. So everybody has a stake, and for the community and for the public, I keep saying that we need to understand that persons with disability are just like any other person.
Just like any other person.
I know that in some part of the country, persons with disability are barred from going to those places. And
just a message. Someone watching us on Facebook. I mean, just to add to this point you've just raised. I mean, if you can touch on that. That's Benedict. Benedict says an interesting discussion. My aged father is unable to walk at the moment, but needs to go to Accra for medical care. Very worrying is the airline that he's supposed to go with. The airline has refused to fly my father because he's unable to help himself into the aircraft. We are now stuck in Tamale,
unfortunately,
and time is of essence to get my dad urgent medical treatment.
Can you imagine? So this is the importance that we are talking about. The Minister for Aviation and all the there was a time that I remember somebody with a disability was also denied the same opportunity.
Yes.
And nothing has changed.
Nothing happened.
Nothing has changed. A critical man of this age who requires medical attention is stuck in Tamale because the aircraft is not disability friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that?
They've actually refused to accommodate
Yes.
So as a country, are we going back or we're moving forward?
And is the aircraft provided a public service?
It's a public
service.
service.
It's a public service. Yeah.
So if it's a public service, then they need to take them on. They need to take the airline on.
Yeah. We want this vehicle from Tamale. No, come on.
I mean, let me ask you, Mr. Samuel.
Yes, please do, Adra.
In this case, it went to court, whereby they didn't want manhandle. I think PWD.
Yeah.
She's manhandled an airline.
Okay.
Went to court, and she was found. The quick was acquitted, like again without her being whatever, without her being
Head.
right in bringing the case to court.
Wow.
So this shows that the very arms of government,
Attitude, yeah.
the very arms of government, they're not doing their job. Now, if you come in the regulatory name and then I take it to court, what's going to happen? Then you're going to say, oh, Kafa, Fanisa, then you take it later. Because nothing's going to be done. Nothing's going to be done about it.
But what can your outfit also help to do to curb some of these things? I'm talking about Shrek.
Well, for sure, surprisingly, in a day, in a single day, I can think about 5 cases of mental order. they come. You know what's about the Human Rights Watch? I think the Human Rights Watch findings.
Yeah, the report.
Yeah, the report.
Yeah, like death sentence.
Yeah.
Yes, like a death sentence. That's the title.
Bingo.
Yes.
That title kind of like blew my mind away. I was so pissed off. Now, what was I? Where was I?
They said in a day you can just see have about 5 cases related to mental health in your
Bingo.
office. Yes.
And a single that I can see like as many different forms of mental health condition cases like pertaining to schizo, pertaining to dementia, pertaining to PTSD. But yes, sir, I'm sorry, but my office is not equipped enough to handle such cases. And it is not our fault. The government is the greatest violator. The government has not given us the right equipment, the right tools to handle these kind of cases. Persons living with mental health as well as disability do have rights.
Yes.
For instance, it is against a person with a mental condition for you to involuntarily take that person to the mental hospital without the consent of the person. By here in Ghana, what do we see? There was a case I handled whereby this person was actually suffering from bipolar.
Okay.
You know what they did?
Tell us.
Said the whole community, they gathered around with stones and sticks. They manhandled the guy very well. And then they carried the guy to the hospital.
After beating him.
Yeah. Because according to him, he was not voluntary. By law, you cannot administer medical treatment to a mental health patient, a mental health disability person without a consent. The issue of consent lies not with the person, relative, or whoever it is. It lies with the person with the mental health disorder. Now, surprisingly, have you ever thought of the reason why the whole of Accra, they have the sanity to pick up a car and say, I'm going to drop off here?
I said, you're going to do what?
Have you ever wondered why?
Yes.
This person with mental disorder, they have the sense to pick a car and say, I'm going to drop on my church. That should show you that, even though they might have the mental disorder, there is still some sanity in them. So, what are we doing as a country? Seriously speaking, it's tough living here.
I agree with you.
It's tough living here.
I agree with you. Have you lived here all your life?
Not all my life.
You've lived here?
No, not all my life.
Okay.
But I'm not going to mention that.
But at least you've lived out of this
Yeah.
Jurisdiction.
Yeah, out of this jurisdiction. And then I know
it's
that
easier
you-
living there compared
Charlie, well, it is so easy.
Yeah.
It is so easy. Accessibility from birth to this. You see, the issue with the common district plan is this something. I think we are in an era whereby we need to rather equip these people with skill than giving them money. Money will finish. When the money finishes, what
What
happens?
even do? That's true. That's true.
It's about time that the Disability Act, Act 715, Charlie, Parliament has to do something about the passing of this new amendment. Because we are lacking way behind.
Yeah.
Way behind, because now we are seeing so many issues. Even with the COVID thing, people have been stigmatized for having COVID.
I haven't covered.
Should I say that my office shut? We've set up a whole unit to handle that stigmatization alone. Charlie,
Are you having cases?
Me, I can't handle more. No.
All right. And the silence is just the first part we're going to have. We'll have the second part next week. But before we go, let me just find out from all of you. I'm going to start with you, James. What the role that we all can play, including the persons with disability, family, society, the media, to ensure that this accessibility it's really accessible, if I would say it.
I think the first thing that we have to do, all of us, and especially those of us who are ambassadors for this Somuni, is to look out for the designs. What are the approved designs? What are the designs that the ministry is going to give to the contractors?
For these 88 hospitals.
For these 88 hospitals. Because I don't know what is in there. So the first thing is for us to look for them, scrutinize them. And then also, another role we can play is, well, to do an audit of the hospital, the structures, as they are building. As they are building them, we try and go and do an audit and then tell them that, look, what you are doing, no, it's not being done well. That's the role we can play. And I think we have a right to play that role. So for me, I think that first we need to know what the design is. And then if the design falls short of or what we think, we draw their attention to those who are the duty bearers to be able to do it in a way in which we feel that we have been included. So the first thing is to look for it, and then the second thing is to do an audit of the structures as the building is going on.
All right. Yes, Humphrey, same question.
Well, I agree with my colleague, but I'm also saddened this morning because of the texter who sent this message.
Benedict.
One may not know the critical
condition that
the father is going through, and having to travel so many hours by land, and also having this option of travel by air within 45 minutes. I just
even for me, I mean, as a country, I mean, must he travel all the way from the north
exactly
to
access
to get certain health treatment?
So this tells you that the issue.
If our own big men can even travel out of this country,
can you imagine?
That's it.
I mean, what about you and I?
What about you and I?
I mean,
so that tells you that the issues are more critical.
There are serious issues we need to talk
very
about.
Serious.
Very serious.
Even as we are discussing it, it's happening.
Is that going to happen?
So I still will say that the duty bearers have a lot to do. Parliament have a lot to do in terms of this, and I keep saying that if it is not you think that is far until it is you or close to you. If we have the opportunity to change things for the better of this country in terms of ensuring that persons with disability and mental health disability enjoy life like any other person, this is the time that we can do so many things to get things done and done properly. I think so. Because you see, we can do all the advocacies. We can do all the talking. We can have all the laws. We can have all the policies, but if those ones who need to initiate, implement, execute are not doing what it is, then we'll still have all the policies sitting down, all the laws, and then nothing will still change. It requires of them to have an attitudinal change, and of course a positive one that will address issues of disability in this country. We seem to be joking. I mean, this story shouldn't have come.
We're not serious.
It appears we're not serious.
We're not serious.
Recently,
the Asantehene had to talk about the challenges with traffic.
Yes.
That you have to, you buy fuel and you just waste it in traffic, and that even is contributing to our productivity level as a country. You spend about 2, 3, 4 hours in traffic. You get to the office, you are tired. There's nothing you can do. It's like we don't care. What can we do, all of us, to ensure that we make this whole accessibility issue accessible?
This particular topic is a very broad one. Extremely broad, because it has too many tentacles. But I think I can have some 3 recommendations that we can do.
Okay.
Be a brother's keeper.
Okay, that's true.
Be a brother's keeper. you're not gonna be like this forever.
Forever, that's true.
When you get older, and then trying to access the building,
Yeah.
you realize that
My waist.
my back, my waist.
knee. Very right. It's a phase that everybody will go through.
Yeah, it's a shit, you know.
It's a stage.
And then another thing, the greatest violator, the government.
Mm.
I would admonish with all I have, all I hold dear, that government should at least give a call that with a prominence. It needs to be priority, you know, put it on your priority list. We are not a peculiar nature.
Mm.
It is not my fault that I came this way.
That's true.
What makes me guilty of the way I am? By not making my life more effective enough for me to produce, you know, effective productivity in my country. That is why I would rather go to the US, the UK to stay there, because first of all, they will see that I'm first of all a human being for my disability. And therefore, I always say it everywhere I go, that our tradition, our culture, we need to change it. Listen, culture is dynamic.
Yeah.
So that means that it is susceptible to change.
Change.
Our culture, our traditional leaders, our religious leaders, we need to join this fight. It shouldn't be the government alone. Because I go to church, some go to the mosque, some go to the
Traditionalism.
Traditionalist alone, yeah.
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 Funny me for we need to come for back. Challenge you now.
Yeah.
So then, we really need to make it a priority. I didn't want to be 50 years. Come last again, and I'm still struggling with having this decade. As to why there's no elevator for me to join in an elevator to come still further down to both come. Look at the distance from here, from the gate to this place.
Yeah.
Look at the gate man, reception towards me.
Yeah.
No, this thing must stop. If that's too many talking, it's not gonna end anyway. Seriously. No, I think everyone might know there's a breaking point.
I know. I agree. I mean, we are humans. There's a breaking
We are
point.
human.
Yeah.
So it's about time that we see some drastic change. I want to see my parliamentarian doing your work. I want to see my judges and judges implementing these laws. I want to see my administrative, the executive arm of government put in place those things, implement opportunities for persons with disability as well as mental disability. Don't make me a figure or a partial or pity. I don't need pity. I don't need pity.
I agree.
When you give me the resources that I need, I can do much more than you can do. To be a brother's keeper.
Okay. That's very important. That's why we'll leave it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll continue this our conversation next week.
Alright.
And we'll keep talking. And I hope that something very positive will happen. And I always say that, I mean, that comment, we'll get there. We have to get there because we are 64 years old. And certain conversation needs to be had at this particular time. Because sometimes we talk about things that are just useless. We have serious issues affecting us. Health, education, you name it, even water,
Employment.
Oh,
yes,
Charlie.
Transportation. But sometimes we waste information. We waste time talking about a whole lot of things that are not productive. That's my lady, we leave it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you
And
too.
we wish you all the best.
Thank you
We'll
too.
talk again when we have to talk
Thank
again.
you for having.
Thank you too for coming, Ajwa.